So this is part 2 of me getting to grips with my issues at the minute with a lot of the mainstream wrestling. So we talked about the main 2 brands, Raw and SmackDown. But now let's transition to the Wednesday night stuff. The similar issue is Kevin Dunn being, chief producer, editor person. Because you were still getting some of the cuts and everything. I would say, I can't fully talk about this week's past NXT because the UK feed disappeared for about 15 minutes. So the really interesting, and from what I've seen from having to watch it sort of afterwards, but not live, even though it was all taped, so it wasn't actually live anyway. The Dakota Rhea Ripley match was very good, and the Mercedes Martinez has storyline building back to what we thought was an unnecessary storyline with the Robert Stone brand, but clearly with Martinez being involved, there's actually something interesting there. My question is, did it need the Robert Stone brand involved with it? Probably not, because Rhea Ripley Mercedes Martinez would still be a good match. And they gave it a lot of time, the first 20-ish minutes, at least, of the show just dedicated to the women's match. There's a positive. We're certainly pushing a lot of newer names with the fact that Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, and at least to some extent Dexter Lumis, until he obviously had to pull out because of injury, getting the chance at the North American title, rather than established names like Strong or Balor or Gargano, which I know they have other opportunities, so something might happen with that. And then the Karrion Kross Keith Lee thing, which I feel is a double-edged sword. Do you have Keith Lee drop the title and go up to the E, or go up to the sort of the main shows? Straight as he's, won both titles and has only held that. I mean, if the title changes as part of TakeOver 30, Keith Lee will have only held that belt for, 5-6 weeks? Barely anything. But then, of course, if Kross doesn't win the title, that seems a little bit odd, because they've been building him so strong. And having him sort of lose really doesn't fit. It's like the way when we had Walter come through the ranks. Admittedly, it was on Pete Dunne, who had held the belt for so long, so there's not a difference there. But in that essence, when you saw Walter, go up the way he did and challenge the way he did, you immediately knew the title was changing hands. I guess the positive thing with this is you don't know whether it is, but the issue is, does it hurt if Karrion Kross lose? Considering how strong and dominant he's looked? Or do you want Keith Lee, who's barely had time to be the brand's main champion, sort of get pushed up to the roster maybe too quick when you look at the way that previous NXT talents have been mismanaged when they've made the step up to Raw and SmackDown. Also, I just remembered on 205 Live they were talking about how Danny Burt's suffering from the beating that he took from Karrion Kross back on NXT this week. Except he faces him next week. I'll have to go back to that. I'm pretty sure that was mentioned. In which case, that's stupid. But then the Pat McAfee stuff with Adam Cole. The podcast thing was delivered passionately, but not believably. They did very well at peeing each other off, but they didn't do well to make it seem like it was an actual real thing rather than an angle. It didn't seem like, these guys absolutely hate each other. Which then, of course, builds to McAfee making fun, or McAfee, I should say. It's just because the way it's spelt, I guess. McAfee, or no, McAfee, no, I don't know. The stuff with Pat, especially when it came to the whole, disrespecting Beth, causing her to sort of leave the Zoom call where she was doing the commentary remotely, and then making fun of him because of his size, of which Cole gets rolled up at, and then of course bloomin' punt kick straight to him to the head, because that's what he did in the football, you see. And Pat's just being the heel, and it seems to be building towards Adam Cole facing Pat at TakeOver. Is that the best we can do for a uber talented guy like Adam? The word was they were considering having Orton face either a Ciampa or a Cole from NXT. In some shape or form, which I think would be better to progress him moving to the main roster, which I think has been way overdue. Same to some extent with Ciampa because of how long they've been sort of down there in the brand. Then a gimmick with some celebrity ex-football player. Has he retired? I guess he has then. Yeah, following his retirement at the end of the 2016 football season. I just thought he was going to be up there with sort of... I'm trying to think of the football player that retired and then went sort of immediately back. Oh, Gronkowski. Of course, because of his WWE exploits that suddenly weren't because he hooks up with his boy in at Tampa. I think it's Tampa. I can't remember, but the angle that he's doing is clearly just to sort of get attention, get other people watching him. I don't know whether it's working. The problem is, if you went to sort of his Twitter, 1.8 million followers. Oh, there we go. And so, they're basically thinking, with the amount of followers, then it must be good. I don't think it is. Because those that are fans of Pat will not want Pat to lose, regardless of what it is, I'd have thought. So that double-edged sword is coming back into play. And it needs to be dealt with properly, otherwise there's issues. And then AEW's setbacks, which in essence, considering how they were saying how great a woman's roster it is how there's been a distinct lack of women's product on the main show that the majority of the people see. Because I'm just intrigued to see what the viewership is for All Elite's YouTube content. Oh great, they segmentized it, so it's really confusing. So roughly about 500,000 people have watched the Women's Tag Team Cup tournament. We'll get to that. And Dark was watched by somewhere in the region of 400,000. And viewership for this past week was... That's not the right numbers. That is the right numbers. 900,000 or so. Which, considering it's going up against NBA basketball at the minute, is probably reasonable. But the numbers are half, at least, or roughly half, of who's watching YouTube. And I don't know how many people that watch it on YouTube watch it live and then watch it again on YouTube. That sort of thing. But, on the main product, the stuff that's on television, where they're saying, how great they are, the only female wrestling that they had was a brief squash match with Britt Baker forcing Reba to fight Big Swole. That's all there was. No Hikaru Shida. No any other women. They're just shoved onto the other stuff. I mean, let's look at Dark. Abaddon beating Kylan King. And that's it. Again, one woman's match on a show with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches. Probably because there's the AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament going on. Because of course there is. Vader's got on commentary. I appreciate. Shaul Guerrero doing the in-ring announcing. Medusa just randomly sort of being towed out. And we had, Nightmare Sisters beat Penelope Ford and Mel. And then Anna Jay and Tay Conti beating Nyla Rose and Ariana Andrew. But sticking it when they are on a Monday, when people are already sick of seeing 3 hours of Raw, I think is a questionable position for it to go. When you think about it, you have SmackDown on a Friday, you have Raw on a Monday, you have Dark on a Tuesday, Impact as well if you want to watch that, and Wednesday you have NXT and AEW. Dynamite. Why is there this aversion for doing anything on a Thursday? There's a space there. The time that you aired it, it makes sense for you to have it on a Thursday. You could have it in the 45 minutes to an hour before the big NFL game. At least when we get to September. But the issue is, this women's tag team tournament, I think, is culminating at least probably by the end of September. So you're only going to have a couple of weeks of a chance of having it Thursday being something to sort of be there as something new for wrestling fans to watch for that day. And it's not that long, so it's less sort of, oh god, we've got to watch that and that. Because when you think about it, you've got 3 hours of Raw on a Monday, 3 hours of AEW Dark, and Impact on a Tuesday, 2 hours, which technically is 4 if you want to watch both and concentrate on both and just watch them side by side. 0 hours on Thursday, and then 2.5 hours normally when you take into account 205 Live along with SmackDown. There's a huge day gap there. But do they go with it? No. That's way too easy. And on top of that, the thing that caused a little bit of criticism and led Brandy to getting rid of her Twitter, admittedly, because racist comments were being made in regards to what was being offered up, but the AEW heels thing, which they're saying how it's a new community for women who love wrestling. led by Brandy and the stars of the women's division, is designed to celebrate and inspire female fans around the world and making it the best time to be a female fan. The issue being well, that's interesting. I don't even know whether you can buy it then at this minute. The word is it's $50 a year, which as long as they offer the right sort of stuff, then hopefully it'll work. I'm just looking through the stuff because apparently they had an event on Friday which featured a Q&A with Aubrey and a respect, inclusion and empowerment in the workspace session with Keisha Ann Gray, and saying how it was a massive success and exceeded the number of membership sign-ups to continue to move it onward and upward. So basically you're implying that you needed the money in order for it to be viable, which is a little concerned with the wording. You know, if it does deliver, that's certainly good. But you know, I'm hoping that there's promise there. I think for some people, having a paywall there makes it inaccessible for some people. That's my only concern. If they can do a mix of subscription stuff but also do, you know, free stuff for those people that can't commit to $5 a month, I'm hoping it goes well for them. Unlike with WWE, where I hope it doesn't. You know, I hope they adapt and improve and whatever and actually make it what it needs to be. And have it as accessible to as many people as possible. You know, I feel that having to pay money to just have sort of the equivalent of a safe space is something that sort of shouldn't be happening in this day and age with all the speaking out allegations that we've had over the past months. Surely it needs to be a safe space. Well, I was going to say a safe space for everyone, but safe enough so that we don't need, you know, communities of LGBT people being separate, or communities of, you know, female fans being separate. The harmony of equality, or whatever the wording is. I do wish it the best, But I feel an issue about, championing women, and yet there is very little championing of women on the main product for the last number of weeks or months. It may be because they're too reliant on foreign imports, maybe. The amount of Japanese talent, Riho, not able to move. Yuka Sakazaki, not able to move. Hikaru Shida, committing her time to sort of being over here. Which means she's the only sort of one, but she's done very little in the past few weeks since winning the title. At least on the main stuff, from what I remember. Hang on. I need to go to Cage Match to see how many matches she's had. Yeah, Shida seems to be wrestling every 2 weeks, roughly. But as the female figure, oh, sorry, that one was on Dark. So she only wrestled on Dynamite twice in the space of July. Okay. I'm trying to see a list of the stuff. So, one women's match on Dynamite, one woman's match on Dark, one woman's match on Dynamite, one woman's match on Dark, one woman's match on Dynamite. Oh my word, 2 women's matches on Dark. They're spoiling us. Then just one on Dynamite. Then the 2 on Dark. Then again one on Dynamite. Seemingly they only have one women's match on Dynamite. Because... And this is, I guess, another thing that I'm starting to get concerned by with AEW, is the roster. There's a lot of new talents and a lot of established talents that are there, that are in way too many storylines, and way too many need to get pushed. I mean, to some extent, that's why we had a 12-man tag match on this past week's show. Because we've got the FTR Elite / Young Bucks angle. We have the Kenny Omega, what's he doing angle. We have the Adam Page, what's he doing angle. We have the Colt Cabana, what's going on angle. We have Mr. Brody Lee and his control over the Dark Order angle. All incorporated into one match. And there's a lot of talent that should be on the main roster that doesn't get the opportunity every week. It's the equivalent of, wrestlers like Ricochet and Cedric, who were sort of big talent, getting put to main event. It's not going to have as many eyes on it. Sad, but true. I wouldn't say the numbers lie, considering, 900,000 people watch Dynamite, and AEW Dark has less than 400,000, less than the women's tournament that aired. The reason why WWE struggled is because it had such a bloated roster. They needed to go. I just feel the manner in which WWE did it with the firings, or the releases, I should say, was a little distasteful, considering how it wasn't like it has been previously, with, you know, just sort of wanting to clear people out and bring new people in or whatever. But it was in the middle of the COVID situation, so when job security is not great anyway, you suddenly say, yeah, we can't afford you anymore, even though they go and make record profits because of less costs for production trucks to travel and everything, because they're just based out of the one venue. Which did barely anything to the stock price, because you thought that's probably why they probably did it, because they thought, oh, well, that means the stock price is going to go up. And yep, even looking at the last 5 days, its peak on Monday was sort of $46, and by the end of Friday it fell, I mean, that's 43.70, so the 3% fall isn't accurate. It's probably somewhere like 5% fall. 43 to 46. Yeah, close to 5%. It wasn't as bad as it was in March, when it was sort of at 30. It's recovered since then. But when you look at how, at its peak in the past 12 months, September, they were at $76 a share. When the Fox deal was sort of finalised and everything was happening with that. Or Fox, you know, the Fox broadcast started. Even looking at the, wow, September 2018, the stocks were at $96 a share. They were sort of at 20 for a number of years, sometimes below 20. Then it rocketed up sort of 2018 and troughed a bit, then went to 2019. Like I said, back in sort of September-ish, about 75. Hang on, let's see if I can look at the fall over the past month. It's, well, sorry, over the 24 hours. No, that isn't what I was looking for. It's fallen 13% from its peak over the past 6 months, which was February, and has fallen in the past 12 months at its peak, which was nearly half. At least with Tony, that doesn't seem to be an issue, money-wise. But then, of course, we get the news that the guy that was championing it at TNT has been replaced. And the question is, does the new person that's in charge of the TNT stuff think that the Dynamite stuff is working? Which is another issue entirely. So, I guess those are my NXT and AEW gripes and concerns. Less so than with Raw and SmackDown's. I mean, it's stronger than concerns. Fears, I guess. Issues and fears, rather than concerns and thoughts. Issues and fears, I think, is more severe than the other two. I don't know. Anyway, more content here on the channel. Snack stashes and sipping snacks for food taste testing, drink taste testing. It's a lot of teas, taste testing, teeth. AJ's movie reviews and verses. Movie award season coverage. We did a little video with Owen flashing back to films that he was catching up on from a few years back. You can catch that on the archive now. Voices of Liberty stuff will be coming up soon as well. Gaming stuff from me, all that sort of stuff here on the channel. Subscribe, bell, like. Apparently those are 3 words you have to say, otherwise you get shot. Didn't say it in the last one, but did anybody notice? Probably not. I mean, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments as well. Am I wrong with my issues? No. Am I wrong with my concerns over NXT and AEW? Or on the other video, if you're watching these together, the fears and issues that I have with the main Raw and SmackDown products. Put it in the comments. I'll probably read them, I'm not sort of completely deafened out. So yeah, thank you for watching. See you on the next one.